And now, it is a tremendous honor, pleasure, and I feel, and I'm sure you do too, extremely excited to have Carol Reed back with us. So, Carol, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Lilika. Okay, I'm going to get my PowerPoint up. Great. And I'm going to get the chat so I can see what you're all saying. Hello, everybody. Good evening, everybody. And it's absolutely fantastic for me to be here and connect with you from Madrid in Spain, where it's a beautiful sunny day and we're just beginning to come out of lockdown. And what I'm going to do in this session is essentially very practical. What I want us to do is to look at a range of practical ideas using easily available resources, which will help you keep children engaged and learning in virtual time. And these are essentially adapted from face-to-face practice, which I think for all of us during this crisis has been the best place to start. And what I'd then like to do is to actually use these practical ideas to establish 10 key principles of online engagement with children. So moving straight into it. Okay, using puppets. When you're teaching online, one of the things that's really hard and that children miss is the physical presence of their teacher. A puppet can really help you create a warm, effective learning climate. The puppet becomes the children's friend. The puppet has feelings and can be happy, sad, tired, cold. Over the years, I've used all kinds of puppets. Some of them are in the photo I took there. Finger puppets, pencil puppets, oven glove puppets, sock puppets, even an umbrella I used to have once with the head of a duck. Your puppets don't need to be sophisticated. The important thing is that they have a name and a personality, and that you make sure that the puppet shows interest and affection for the children. As well as opening and closing routines, you can use the puppet to demonstrate activities and also to help you manage the class. There are also many different kinds of activities that you can use, and I know that you're all out there doing this, so if you have additional ideas that we can all share, please put them in the chat box. So for example, we could do a little activity, guess what the puppet's thinking about, and we could have 3 to 6 flashcards or real objects. We can do an activity correcting the puppet. The puppet may be a bit silly and get things wrong. For example, the ball is blue. Oh no, Rosie, or whatever the puppet's called. The ball is red. We can also do activities like Simon Says, but using our puppet, using the puppet's name. Rosie says, wave your arms. Rosie says, stand up, please. Again, you can use the please and thank you thing for the children to respond to. And you can also have a feely bag, the puppet's bag, guess what's in the puppet's bag, using real objects or flashcards. And using real objects brings me to the next area of resources. And one of the really good things about teaching from home is that it's much easier to get hold of real objects, and you don't go wandering, getting your bus or metro into school with a bag full of objects that you need to hang on to and lug around for the whole day. So the games that you can play include, for example, what's missing. And to play this, you can either turn your camera off or use a cover. So are you ready to put in the chat box what's missing? As quick as you can, see who can do it first. Are you ready? What's missing? Let's see. Come on. What was missing? Anyone got it? Can you not remember? The tomato. Brilliant. Okay, fantastic. What about this one? Are you ready? Try and be a bit quicker this time. What's missing now? What's missing? What's missing? Brilliant. Okay, and let's just do one more. Are you ready? Let's get those fingers ready on the chat. Are you ready? And
the apple.
Brilliant. Yes. Okay. Somebody with the microphone on there. Fantastic. Okay. We can also do activities like a memory game. And here, of course, we're using one lexical set, but we could be using a mixture of lexical sets. So here, are you ready? There are 12 items. Can you see if you can remember them all, or at least put a few in the chat box, because I know you've got the idea of this. Are you ready? Off we go. Let's just have a few of them. A few of them in the chat box. Yeah, tomato, banana, chocolate. Fantastic. Okay, really good. Just checking that you're still with me. Okay, so with a tray of objects like this, we can also do lots of other simple things. We can, for example, describe one of the objects and students guess which one we're describing. This could be really simple. It's yellow, you can eat it, so it's the banana. We can also play variations on I Spy with My Little Eye. We might do it to practice letters of the alphabet and spell it I Spy with My Little Eye, something beginning with T or T, okay, tomato, but we also might have I spy with my little eye a green fruit, or we might have I spy with my little eye a food that's got lots of protein, okay, so we can vary that in many ways. Another activity that we can do, and perhaps choosing not all the objects that are on the tray there, but 4 of them. So for example, we could choose the banana, the tangerine, the apple, and the pear, and children need to think of their own criteria for which one is the odd one out. For example, they might say banana because it doesn't grow on a tree, or tangerine because it's the only citrus fruit. We can also play a hide and seek game, and hide and seek, we can do this by turning off the camera and hiding an object in the room behind us. And children then look for the object and ask you questions about where it is. You probably need to have it showing a little bit. And whoever does it first can then have the next turn. Another activity that's fun to do because it gets the children up and moving is go and get. Okay, so go and get something that you need to take to the beach. Go and get something that you use in your daily routine. Go and get a vegetable that you like. And children can show their items quickly, or they can show them slowly, and the others take turns to guess what they are. And if you are using breakout rooms and have other adults, parents probably, available to monitor the breakout rooms, you can also do a scavenger hunt whereby the children have a list of objects that they have to get. And it's really good for kind of problem solving and team working, because they need to work together to decide who is going to get each object. So moving on now to the next area of activities, show and tell. Okay, show and tell, which is an opportunity for personalized speaking and for you to show interest and care and to get to know the children. It's a good way also of training other children to listen, and it's always a good idea to set a task at the outset. Be ready to ask Maria one question. So show and tell really builds up children's confidence in speaking. In fact, if you like, it's laying the foundations of presentation skills that will come later. And as a matter of course, you should always model show and tell activities first. So you can start very simply. For example, if children are learning about toys, you might show children one of your favourite toys. This is my teddy bear, it's brown. Then ask children to bring one of their favourite toys and show it to the class. This is my car, it's red. For longer show and tell activities, you may like to assign different children for each lesson. For example, they can bring and talk about a family photo or a very special occasion, and other children listen and ask questions. Show and tell can also include children showing and talking about their pets, if that's feasible, about their bedroom, about their favourite book, their favourite clothes. There are many possibilities, and it's a good idea for getting just a little bit of speaking, focusing on the ones who are confident and willing to do this. Moving on now, action games and activities. Just as in a real classroom, children can't sit still in front of a screen for long. So games and actions that give children a physical break are really important. So with a simple image like this, we might just have a game where you literally say the colour and children touch the part of the body. So red, touch your head, blue, touch your arms, and so on. We can also, as I mentioned earlier with the puppet, do a kind of puppet Simon Says kind of game. And we can also do a cumulative action game, making it rhythmic as well. So for example, we might have something like move your head and your feet, move your head and your feet and your arms, move your head and your feet and your arms and your hands, and so on. And this leads into another activity, which is a fun one to do in real life and online, which is mirroring. You do actions and the children mirror you. In other words, they copy and say exactly what you do. So for example, I'm brushing my hair, I'm cleaning my teeth, and so on. And you can go faster as children get used to the activity, and that brings in an element of humour as well. Also, using true-false sentences that children respond to with actions. So for example, stand up and wave your arms if it's true, stand up, because we do want the actions, and fold your arms if it's false. And then sentences you say that are relevant to your unit of work or topic. So for example, crocodiles are reptiles and they all stand up, okay? Snakes are mammals and they stand up and fold their arms. You can also use actions for classroom procedures. So for example, if you're having a technology check at the beginning of the session, you can have, if the children have their cameras on, wave if you can see me. And you can also use actions for learning review. Jump up and down if you can remember all the words, or more simply, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle to express how they're feeling. Okay, moving on to the next area then that I wanted to talk about, and this is using mini whiteboards. Now you can see that the mini whiteboard here is actually a homemade whiteboard because when the lockdown started, I didn't have a real mini whiteboard, and so I made my own using a piece of paper in a plastic envelope that you can just see there. I put grey paper in to make the contrast with the white of the PowerPoint, and you put it in a plastic envelope and you can then write on it. I'm very proud to say that I now have my own real mini whiteboard because the stationery shops opened this week. So this is one you can write on both sides, which is very handy. And of course, mini whiteboards are wonderful because they get children involved in doing things during the lessons. You're developing motor skills, and there's an element of personalization and investment and ownership of learning, as well as providing variety. So, for example, you might have a draw and say or draw and guess activity where children draw a picture of a pet they like, or the favourite animal from a story or unit of work, and they then show and tell the class, I like the cat, or we make it into a guessing game, holding our whiteboards to ourselves. Do you like the cat? Yes, I do. No, I don't. Mini whiteboards are also wonderful for picture dictations. You can dictate a picture and the colours relevant to the unit of work or story, and children, some of them, not all of them, it would be too boring, but one or two get to show their pictures and talk about them at the end. Another activity, very simple, you get children to write yes on one side of the whiteboard and no on the other, and then you say sentences which apply or not. For example, rainforests have got tall trees, yes, it rains a lot in the desert, no, and so on. You can also use your mini whiteboard to write an anagram of letters, of vocabulary that children are learning, or as an introduction to a topic. And mini whiteboards are also very useful in learning reviews, that children can draw emojis on their whiteboard, a smiley face, a straight line, a downturned mouth, to give feedback on how well they think that they've learned something. You can also use coloured pens for traffic lights, red, orange, or green. And another nice idea that I like is actually to get children to draw round their hand on the mini whiteboard and to write on each finger one thing that they can now do as a result of learning that has taken place in the lesson. When you use your own whiteboard as well, you can draw a picture to introduce a topic or story or to revise vocabulary, and children guess what you're drawing, and they always particularly enjoy it when you're not a very good artist like me. That brings humour in. You can also use the mini whiteboard to build up a character together. And when children do well in an activity or the end of a lesson, you can draw an emoji or a heart on your whiteboard and show it to the children to give positive feedback for their efforts. So moving on to the next area, to do with using art and craft. Simple art and craft activities, which aren't complicated and don't take long to make, provide opportunities for authentic listening, and the physical manipulation of making something provides variety and helps to keep children engaged. Art and craft can also provide a bridge between synchronous and asynchronous learning. For example, you might get children to make a zigzag or origami book. I've got a couple of examples here so you can see there's a zigzag book made by children, made by a child, and origami books, which are very simple to make. So they might make, following your instructions, that book online, having prepared children and their parents to come with a suitable piece of paper or card to the lesson, and then bring back their completed version of the book next time for show and tell. This one, for example, is a book by a 5-year-old child with pictures and words of the things that they like. Or you might get children to make one of these, I'm sure you know these, fortune tellers or snapdragons, as I used to call them when I was a child. These, yeah? Okay, they might make those during the lesson and then actually try them out on their parents and brothers and sisters at home. So art and craft can provide a great bridge. Similarly, you might make these animal cubes and children act out the story using them. They wouldn't make all those during the lesson, but you would make one and then they could go off and make the others afterwards. So using art and craft then, another resource. Okay, so that's a number of areas of ways of using easily available resources to keep children engaged and learning. And I think from what we've been talking about up to now, we can actually extract a number of principles. And I would like to suggest to you now, and we can talk about it after in the questions, because you may have other principles to add, but 10 principles of online engagement with children. So the first one is not rocket science, but it's so important. Believe in yourself. Okay, you're already a good teacher. Don't forget it. This is just a different medium. Bring to the party all the skills you already have. Build on the familiar. Adapt what you already know how to do in this new situation. Although it may be helpful to learn new tools, and I think we've all come a long way actually since lockdown started, but it's not primarily what it's about. You are the most important instructional resource and what matters most. Related to that, establish your virtual presence. So this is kind of to do with looking at the camera, having, well, you can't have direct eye contact with all the children, but they can have a sense that you are relating to them and engaging with them. Try to have good lighting. I know it's not always easy. Try not to be in the shadow. Use clear, confident language, clear body language. Vary your voice. Stand up, move about. Make sure you include everybody and use their names a lot so that they feel included and part of your class community. The next point, affective teaching for effective learning. You remember that quote, children don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That quote comes from the chapter by Veronica de Andres in the Jane Arnold book on effect in language learning by CUP, published years ago in 1999. She doesn't know who said that quote, but it is the most wonderful quote, I think. And this is important in face-to-face teaching, but it's even more important when we're working online. Rapport and positive relationships are crucial. Spend time at the beginning of the class asking how the children are, their parents too, because they're probably going to be there. So more than just a greeting, and ask children how they are, what they've been doing. Use humour and fun. For example, I want everybody to come to the next lesson wearing a hat or wearing a t-shirt of their favourite colour, or even maybe their favourite pyjamas, or with their favourite drink and snack. You can also do things like choose different virtual backgrounds, and children have to guess where you are today. And actually they love doing that as well once they know how to do it if you're using the cameras. And use inclusive language and actually prioritise bonding as a community. This is what's important right now. The next point, make learning personal. Draw on the home context as much as possible. When children feel your care and interest, this boosts their self-esteem and makes learning memorable. So for example, activities involving personal toys, objects from around the home, the kind of stuff we talked about earlier, photos, show and tell, go and get an object from your bedroom, virtual tour of your house. They can be very simple, but it makes learning personal, and together with nominating children, which we need to do much more when we're teaching online than face-to-face, this makes it feel personal. The next point, curiosity is key. We need to keep children curious and guessing, predicting stories from pictures or words, close-up partial picture to guess what the topic is going to be about, what's in the bag, games. You need to keep up a pace, but an online pace, so it's not quite the same pace as face-to-face. You need to expect things to take longer, and don't feel frustrated if you can't cover quite the same amount of ground as you do in a face-to-face lesson. The next point, give children choice and voice. In other words, give options and agency in what they do and how they do it. This fosters investment and ownership of learning. If you decide what you're going to do, you're far more invested in it. And it also leads to greater autonomy and responsibility for learning. You can give children options between different activities. For example, are you going to sing a song now or act out the story? Jump up and down if you want to sing the song. You can also use an online poll if you want to do that, or use emoticons in the chat box. Although actually I wouldn't use the chat box too much with small children, as it does take time and it can be a distraction. Okay, the next principle, kiss and make learning visible. In other words, chunk learning stages, activities into bite-sized bits. In other words, KISS, which I'm sure you all know, stands for keep it short and sweet. Review with emojis, thumbs up, in transitions between activities, and actually much more than you do face-to-face. Attention spans are short, and children need to be constantly reminded of what they're learning and how well they're doing. Encourage positive self-reflection and gives lots of positive feedback. So, kisses in that sense too. Principle number 8, provide physical breaks. I don't know how long your lessons are, perhaps you can tell me in the chat box, but children need physical breaks in an online classroom. They need them in a physical classroom as well, but I think they need them even more in an online classroom. Being in front of a screen for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, sometimes even longer, is very tiring. And I think it's a good idea to mark transitions between activities by doing a TPR activity or singing an action song. Principle number 9, involve parents. In your online teaching situation, communication with parents, clear communication with parents, is more important than ever, with guidelines on content and learning objectives and how you would like to suggest that they support their children's learning at home. With young children, of course, 1 or 2 parents are also likely to be present during your lessons. You can make practical use of them in doing simple games or other activities with their child, but you also need to be careful that they are really observers and not doing the lesson for their child or, joining in too much. Okay, and my last principle here is to connect synchronous and asynchronous learning. By doing this, you make a connection between the virtual world of the classroom and the real world at home that helps you to maximize opportunities for learning. For example, children might learn how to make a snapdragon or the origami book that I talked about earlier, and then try it out on their family at home. Or there's the toing and froing. They might make it in the lesson, write it, and then come back to the online lesson as a show and tell. So there is this connection and communication, the homeschool link, if you like. But I think it's even more important to be more frequent and more regular in the kind of situation that we're working in at the moment. Okay, so we've nearly got there. I meant to put my stopwatch on at the beginning and I forgot. So I hope I haven't run over time.
You're fine. You're fine, Carol.
Okay, because I can't see the time on my computer right now.
You're
okay.
fine. You're fine.
Okay, another way to correct synchronous and asynchronous learning might be that you set up an inquiry-based learning question. For example, can dolphins speak to each other? And that you set that up during the online lesson, and children then go away and do a bit of research using a child-friendly research engine such as Kiddle, and then they report back in the next lesson. So what we've done then in this session is we've had a look at practical ideas based on easily available resources. So using puppets, using real objects, using actions, show and tell, mini whiteboards, and art and craft, and extracted what I think are 10 key principles of online engagement with children. And some of you who've come to my sessions in the past or know my work might think, how strange that Carol hasn't even mentioned stories. So before I go, I do want to mention stories because they are a wonderful way of engaging children in virtual time. And I'd just like to draw your attention to an initiative that I set up with my publisher Macmillan at the start of lockdown because I wanted to do something to support teachers and young children learning from home. So this is a series of videos. There are 9 up there at the moment. There will be, the full set will be 12. Each story has a video of the story with pre, during and after activity for children to do. And then there's also a video of teaching tips. So I've put the link below. This resource is absolutely free to use whenever you like. And I've actually been getting emails from teachers working in countries all over the world telling me what they've been doing with these stories. Some of them actually using them in online lessons, and others sending the links home and getting the children to watch them at home and do various activities. So that really does bring me to the end, and I'm very sorry I forgot to put my stopwatch on. I hope I haven't gone on too long and that there will be time for questions. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Wow, to begin with, Carol. You really are fantastic, and thank you very much. And we do have time, and so if you have any questions, please write them. I already have one that was written earlier, and the question is, do you recommend using Realia in front of the camera in teaching children online, or is it okay to adapt as many activities as possible as virtual activities?
I think it's okay to do either of those things. I mean, I think, you know, if I hadn't been using my PowerPoint now, I might have done the activity with real objects with the tray, you know, on the screen so that the children could see me there. You know, I wouldn't have needed a PowerPoint to do that. So I think both, and I think an important thing, well, it's important to provide variety, but it's also important to set up clear routines and familiarity. So I think it's a question of keeping that balance.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? So far there are many, thank yous, wonderful, inspiring, amazing, and so on. I'll send you the chat. You will read them for yourself. But any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Huh? We've got Carol here. You can ask questions. This is June 6th, and we will call it the Carol Day as opposed to another day in the past. Okay.
Well, there's something that that I know people ask. Well, maybe it's not relevant if no one's got a question, because teachers have been asking me about assessment during this time, and I think we have to really recognize that this is a very special and very difficult, in certain contexts, time for a lot of children and their parents. And so that actually the kind of curriculum objectives that we have are not so much priority as making sure that our children are feeling okay. And for some children, it's very difficult to participate online. I know that some children don't even want the camera on. Some children love it and respond, and that's great, but other children don't. And so one of the tools that we can use for assessment, and this is sometimes in the teaching tips videos on those stories I've told you about, is, for example, that children can, with the support of their parents, make a little video of them saying the chant or acting out a dialogue of the story and send it to you. And that is, they do that in a safe way with their parents, but it also gives you a little bit of evidence about how they're doing. So I think assessment is a complex issue at this point, but I also think that the social and emotional learning side of things with children during this crisis is crucial. And the most important thing is that they look forward and love coming to this online time we have. And if possible, keep it short. If possible, it's your schools that dictate it, I know, but I would definitely recommend having half-hour rather than 1 hour sessions with children.
Okay, the last question. I would like to ask about the role of parents under the circumstances.
Right, well that is a very good question and quite a big question, and the role of parents is absolutely crucial. For a start, we all know, those of us who are parents or have been looking after young children at home, that parents are under a lot of pressure at the moment as well. And so how they're feeling is likely to have a repercussion on how their children feel. They may also be anxious about how their children are missing out from not going to school. So the relationship with parents is crucial. And I think number one, there needs to be an absolute clear communication with them about what you're aiming to do with the children in your online classes this time. Number two, how parents, whether they speak English or not, because actually parents often feel, oh no, I can't support because I don't speak English, but actually there are lots of ways in which they can support their child, can teach them the food words they learn, for example. So support in actually what they can do, an open invitation to be with their child during the session. That with young children you would expect that anyway. And I think that's three things, isn't it? I think, yeah, the clear communication, how to support, the open invitation, and I know that you're probably getting swamped by emails from parents, and but at the same time, parents do need to feel that they can contact you if there are specific issues that they want to talk about.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Carol. And now we're going to have the evaluation card. George, are you going to do it or am I going to? There it is. Please fill it out. It won't take longer than a minute. And then we can see the results. Of course, we know the results. So.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, well.
No, I didn't know you were doing instant evaluation.
It is, yes. Well, this is one of the services of Zoom.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. Since we have a few minutes, here it is. You can see the results. Yeah, well, you can see exactly. Thank you. Thank you very much, Carol. We hope that everything goes well and we will be able to have you again in person.
It would be my pleasure.
It was it was wonderful today, but we all remember a few years ago your plenary when you came to the TESOL Greece convention. Thank you very much. We really appreciate that you accepted our invitation, Carol.
Well, it was a wonderful conference. I remember it very vividly. And the creativity panel as well.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Well, listen, thank you very much, everyone. Lovely to see you. Take care and stay safe.
You too. Stay safe, Carol.
Yeah. Okay. Bye then. Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Tomorrow.